to the Newton Falls area, and we joined by Mark Baker now, Newton Falls girls basketball. Coach, how are we doing today?
Doing well, thank you, sir.
Coach, first question, as always, we like to always start off with our meet the team sort of segment. So, looking at your team this year and who is returning, who are some of the big names you expect to be on this team, and who are some younger players that you think might have an impact this year?
First off, we graduated quite a few kids from last year's team. We graduated 5 seniors, 5 starters, and we really only bring back very few kids with some varsity experience. At the top of that list is going to be Natalie Albert. She's going to be a junior, been playing now for quite a while. She's our little sharpshooter on the outside, and the other 2 would be Shelby Fowler. Forward, plays around the baskets for us, and then a couple girls got a little bit of time last year, young girls, sophomores. Danny Drake will be our point guard this year, and Chloe Butler will be one of our off guards as well. And all 4 of those girls are really expected to have high contributions throughout the season.
Coach, you look at this MVAC grade tier on the girls' side. It's a gauntlet of his conference. Liberty's
Boy, is it ever.
Everybody. Crestview's always great. You got Garfield coming in. Talk about this MVAC, what you think about it, and how you expect to fare in it.
You know, I felt like the a few years ago I was saying the same thing, that I felt like the league that we were playing in for girls basketball was probably the strongest it's been. I've been fortunate enough to have been around for quite a while now. This is my 17th year here at Newton Falls. So I've seen the league evolve over the years. You know, I go back to the years when it was still the TAC 8. You still had Hubbard and Lakeview were still in the league. So the league has continuously evolved, and it's just gotten stronger and stronger. And it's had some ebbs and flows on the girls basketball side of things. But I really can't tell you a time that I remember or recall at this point that there are so many strong basketball teams. Obviously, you know, I'll start with Brookfield. Made it to the district championship last year. I don't know that if they graduated anybody. It's not somebody I can recall off the top of my head. Probably have one of the better guards in the area, and Sophie Hook. Move on down the line there with Crestview down to the south of us. Again, has a lot of kids in this program, a lot of athletes. Crestview in general, girls volleyball team went to the regionals, boys soccer team down at the state finals. They've got athletes right now walking around at Crestview High School. Champion as well. I believe Champion will probably have a young team this year, but his young kids are talented. They're very athletic. They're multiple sport athletes. LeBray, again, maybe has one of the better guards in the area over there on their team. And I know their numbers are a little bit down as well, but they're going to be a strong team as well. And now we bring in the addition now of Garrettsville coming into our league. Garrettsville, who also played in a district championship, or maybe even won a district championship. I might have that wrong last year, and bringing back several players that have an enormous amount of experience. You know, you've got a couple girls over there, the Smith girl and Seaman off the top of my head. They've probably been playing since they were freshmen, if not sophomores for sure. So they bring back an enormous amount of success as well as experience that teams like my team, for example, this year lacks an area that I can't teach. They lack the experience right now, and that's something that I just can't teach that. You know, I can simulate it and practice and do the best I can, but until you've been there and done that, there's a learning curve that's going to take place.
And no doubt that schedule is going to provide that learning curve for them, I think, of course, Coach. But going into this season, too, we know typically when you have these kind of younger teams and these girls that are just starting out, too, there's always opportunities for growth and for them to grow over the season. And you can't ever get caught up in trying to be last year's team, especially when it was senior-led. So what do you think, early on, of course, what do you think the identity of this particular team is going to be?
I guess the identity is going to be youth. It's going to be to try to play to your strengths. The young kids that we have do have a little bit of talent. I think we're able to play a little faster than we've been than we have in the past, where we've kind of played more of a little more methodical type game. I think we're going to try to play a little more helter skelter and maybe make the game a little ugly at times might be to our advantage. So I think that's maybe if we can oscillate back and forth between times where we want the game to get ugly and a little bit out of control, and yet times where we want the game to be under control and be very fundamental. If we can kind of oscillate back and forth between those two segments, I think we'll have some success here and there.
As you said before, your 17th season at Newton Falls. To do it for that many years, you got to have a passion for it. You got to have something that drives you to keep coming back. What do you think gives you the passion for not just coaching at this level, but also coaching at this school system?
This year has been, so far, it's been a lot of fun for me. The team I got, lacks experience. They're young. But it's given me an opportunity to go into the gym with kids and just teach, to go in and be with the girls. And I guess it comes back to the fact that I enjoy being a teacher. As growing up in college, I know there aren't very many people that wanted to be a teacher and wanted to be a girls basketball coach. And I think that maybe goes back to some of my upbringing. Believe it or not, my grandmother raised me. And going back as far as she could remember, she played basketball, and she taught me how to play basketball. And just from an early age, I just kind of always knew that this is what I wanted to do. So getting into the gym and just being able to teach the game and have the enthusiasm and have young ladies that are really kind of starved for knowledge has been a joy to me. And as far as teaching in the classroom, I think this is my 20th or 21st year of teaching. People ask the question all the time, well, if you weren't teaching, what would you do? And I don't have an answer, because I don't know what I would be doing. This is kind of all I've ever wanted to do. I do have a pretty significant fishing habit, so I would probably do that a lot more, but I honestly couldn't tell you what I would be doing. I'm very happy and content with the life I live.
Coach, and being a teacher and being a coach, we know how much of an impact you have on the lives of the youth, and especially years coming through this school system. As a basketball coach too, what are some things you try to teach your players that are kind of outside the realm of the X's and O's on the court?
I spend a lot of time now, not so much earlier in my teaching and coaching career, but I spend a lot more time in the classroom with my athletes. And I really try to spend a lot of time addressing the mental aspect of the game. I try to, we say it all the time that mental is the physical as far as the one, but yet if the mental aspect of the game is so much a larger part of the game, then how come we as coaches don't designate any time to the mental aspect of the game? So I certainly do a lot of that. I certainly have stolen some things from the other people. I have what I call Baker's definite dozens. There's 13 different things that we talk about on a regular basis. Being respectful, being loyal, being a communicator, putting the team before yourself, and number 13, because it's a Baker's dozen, and number 13 is being mentally tough. You have to learn to have the skills to be able to control your mind, that when you're in those pressure situations and those big scenarios, that you're able to make the right decisions, and you know how to handle your mistakes and things of that nature. So I would say that's been a big changeover for me, where it's not so much go anymore. There's a lot more time spent in the classroom addressing not just the basketball skills, but the other things, the character issues, the things that make you a leader, a good person, a young woman. And I've been fortunate enough, over the years, I've got so many young ladies now that I've got young ladies that are now teachers. I've got nurses. I've got doctors. I've got a physicist. I've got nurses. I have all kinds of young ladies in professional roles right now. And many have gone on to, they're now coaching their own teams and leading their own individuals. So that might be one of the most rewarding things out of all this, is to see the success that so many of the young women that have come through my program have gone to see.
And when you bring up number 13, mental toughness, it brings up a question that I want to ask, because going through last year and how crazy it was and how chaotic it was, whatever adjective you want to use, Do you think that's going to pay dividends for mental toughness on student athletes this year? You can talk about your girls in particular, but student athletes across the board going through that now coming into this year, I think it helped them mature a little bit faster than they would have to. And then I think mental toughness is going to be a little bit higher than we've seen in years past.
Yeah, I think that which doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. And if you haven't come out of COVID being stronger than you were initially, then there's a disconnect there somewhere. Even from the basketball standpoint, coaches are using Zoom meetings now, and I know for us, we were having our Zoom meetings, and I was having kids draw plays on paper and hold them up, and what are you supposed to do in this situation? And it was turning into little quizzes, and we were doing different little quarantine challenges. So it certainly has to have made us better. We have to have come out on top and be better because of this. Now, from the mental side of things, I think a lot of that has to do with the choices that the individual makes. I obviously spend a lot of time teaching mental skills, but I can only give you the tools. I don't have control over your mind. I don't have control over what you do. And it's certainly your specific level of commitment that you have, whether or not you will benefit from those things. I tell my players all the time, there's 3 levels of commitment, and you're not fully committed until you hit the 3rd level. There's verbal commitment. They're saying, I'm going to be there, I'll do this, et cetera, et cetera. There's physical commitment. You actually show up, you go to practice, you work hard. And then the 3rd and final one is when you become emotionally committed. You're not fully committed until you're emotionally committed. And this is the most difficult level of commitment because you can do everything right. You can do everything. Like take my team, for example, last year. Did everything they possibly could be to do things right. Made it to the district championship, have everything going for you, and you come up short. And you lose in the big game that you wanted to win. So when you become emotionally committed, there's an opportunity there that you could get hurt, that you could lose, that it could not go the way you want it to. And unfortunately, that's life. Life it'll put you to your knees if you let it. And how you bounce back from that determines the type of individual you are. So I certainly think, I would hope that people will come out of this better. I hope people will come out of it more mentally strong, but I think a lot of it has to do with the individual choices that they make, because they're ultimately the one that's going to control their mind.
Coach, we know every coach that wants to implement that sort of culture and that sort of, which by the way, I think is a fantastic culture that you've implemented there over at Newton Falls, if I may say so. But you always need a great staff around you to help with that culture. And as we like to do, we start off with the Meet the Team segment. We also like to do a Meet the Staff segment as well. So highlight some of your assistants and some big names in that Newton Falls girls basketball program.
I'm glad you offered that opportunity, because when I first started as a coach, I was obviously gung-ho and had a lot more energy then than I do now that I'm getting older. And there would have been a time frame that I thought that I could do it all, that I could get this ship headed in the right direction all by myself. It was a difficult lesson for me to learn that you can't do it all. There aren't enough hours in the day to do it all yourself, or let alone to do it well. So the biggest name that I would have to throw out there would be my assistant coach, Tony Hushaw. He's been with me now going on probably 12 or 13 years at this point. And I actually sought Tony out. I saw Tony as a youth coach many, many years ago. I saw what he was doing with young kids. I enjoyed the approach that he took, the teaching aspect of it. He just knew how to coach young women the right way, a way that was similar to my path. So I was lucky enough to bring Tony on board. And at this point, I consider Tony my co-head coach. We kind of flip-flop back and forth every year, or day to day seems to be different. One's good cop, one's bad cop. One takes offense, one does defense. But we're able to finish each other's sentences when we're talking about things. We're able to pick up in drills where one person left off. And at this point, without Coach Huschauer, I would be completely lost. I would be back to doing things by myself. I would also throw in there that I've been able to secure some former players that I now have helping me coach at the younger levels. And that's been a difficult thing to do because many of my young ladies that graduate, they go off to college, and many of them, go on to successful lives that are not conducive to coaching. If you're going to be a nurse, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a physicist, you don't have a lot of time to coach girls basketball. But I'm definitely fortunate enough to start getting some of those players back in the program that they're willing to give back. So that's been a huge help. I also have an assistant down in the 8th grade that's been with me for a number of years, Brian Downey. And Brian has been really, really big at helping me with the youth kids in the summertime, getting those junior high kids some time in the gym and preaching the fundamentals and things to those. So those would be the ones that I would certainly highlight. My 7th grade coach right now, Marissa Tensing, is one of my former players. She goes back. I coached her when she was in track. I had her in basketball here when she was in high school. I had her in class probably 3 years at least. I had her in class. So she knows me. She knows the program. She knows the expectations. She knows the drills we do. She knows the terminology that I use. One of the difficult things for my players to do is sometimes they have to learn how to speak Baker, and I sometimes have some odd terminology for different things. So you have to learn to speak my language and understand the lingo here at Newton Falls before you can really make a big impact as to what's going on. And those guys, those folks definitely know how to speak my language.
Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us, maybe teaching us a little bit of the Baker language so we can too. We look forward to seeing you out at the games and covering you all season, and we know that we'll talk to you again real soon.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you guys do. You guys are doing a great job covering the games. Love to see girls basketball getting put on the map.
We got it starting this weekend, Coach. It's all
coming.